Okay. Questions on the homework?
Yes.
Which
I know
one?
how to do it. I didn't do any of it.
Yeah.
I tried to look at the pieces, but it didn't help. That's me every time I try.
So we have a right triangle. So what can we use to solve for the third side?
The
Pythagorean's theorem, a squared plus b squared equals. So we're given the hypotenuse, which is 13, and we're given one of the side lengths. Now at this point here, we can simplify. 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 169. Now at this point here, we do need to get a by itself, so we would subtract 144 from both sides, telling us that a squared is 25. Now at this point here, we need to square root both sides, and the square root of 25 is 5. So z, in our case, is 5. Now, which one do we want to solve for next, x or y? So now we can use sine, cosine, or tangent. Because we have all three sides, it doesn't matter which trig function we use. Because for x, we do have the opposite side and the hypotenuse. We also have the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, so we can use sine, cosine. And since we do have opposite and adjacent, we could use tangent. But if we use sine, sine of x is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Now to get the angle by itself, we have to take sine inverse of both sides. And sine inverse of sine of x simplifies to just x, our angle, which is going to equal sine inverse of 5 over 13. Now at this point here, we can get the calculator out and do sine inverse of 5 over 13. 22.6. Now we can add it to 90, 22.6 plus 90 degrees, 112, and then subtract that from 180. 4, 3, 7. That's it. Now on some of them, especially I think it's one of the ones on the back, you're going to have to ground to 2. You're going to have to go at least 2 or 3 decimal places because the numbers work out you needed to go that far. Because I think the last one, it gives you the hypotenuse as 1,000. The other side is I think going to end up being that you have to solve for is 1,000.008, or kind of vice versa. One of the sides is 1,000, the other side's 4. The hypotenuse is 1,000.008. So you need the decimal.
Oh, is 1,000? Is that right?
Yeah. You need to square root it.
Oh. Oh wait.
No, just that one. That one just needs the square root. So the hypotenuse squared, because 1,000 squared plus 4 squared. 1,000 squared plus 4 squared gave you, so this number here is what it gave you. 2, 3, 4. So the hypotenuse is 1,000.008. We need the 008 for it to be the biggest side. That looks like it, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on the homework? Any other questions on this assignment here? Okay. We can look at more of those tomorrow. What we're doing today is 9.2. We decided to do it a different order than what the book was printed. And we did this on purpose. So what we're looking at today are what we consider special right triangles. There's different types. One of those that we're going to look at today and most likely tomorrow is the 45, 45, 90 right triangle. And we're going to go use our methods of solving using sine, cosine, and tangent to solve for the missing side lengths. And we're going to solve for both. So they're normally not going to give us both angles. They'll give us, now they might not always give us both angles, but they'll tell us at least one of them's 45, so the other has to be 45 degrees. And we'll do this here. Now, since they're both the same, I'm just going to pick this 45 here. Now, if I want to solve for y, if we want to solve for y first, which trig function would we use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? So it is across, yes? So sine of 45 is going to be opposite, which is y, over what? X. Because tangent is what over what? Opposite over adjacent. Tangent's opposite over adjacent. Sine's opposite over hypotenuse. And cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. So tangent's opposite over adjacent. So opposite would be y, adjacent would be 8. And if we were to solve this here, the next thing we need to do is multiply both sides by 8, telling us that y is equal to 8 times tangent of 45. So on the calculator, we can do 8 tangent of 45 degrees, and we get 8. Okay. Any questions on this so far? So now we can use sine to find x. So the first thing we'll need to do is multiply both sides by? Yes. Because if we multiply by x, we get x sine of 45 is equal to 8. Now it's x by itself. No, so we have to divide both sides by sine of 45. So these here will cancel out. So in the calculator, we can do what? 8 over sine of 45, which is 8 square root of 2. And that's it. So the two side lengths of the triangle are 8 and 8, and the hypotenuse is 8 square root of 2. Questions on this here?
Was it numbers outside for the square root side?
8 times the square root of 2. Any other questions on this here? Let's look at the next one here. we're going to solve for both x and y. Which one do we want to solve for first? X. Because this is also 45. So we could use either one. If we use this one here, to solve for x, would we use sine, cosine, or tangent? Because with this angle, 19, is it adjacent, opposite, or the hypotenuse?
From what? From X?
It's adjacent to this angle here, yes? So which two trig functions use adjacent? Cosine and tangent. So we could use cosine or tangent with this angle 45. Which one do we want to use? So we can say cosine of 45 is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, which is x. Because again, when we pick sine, cosine, or tangent, we're looking at the given angle and what sides we're given to determine which one we're going to use. Now the first thing we'll need to do is to multiply both sides by x. And we do that, these will cancel, telling us that x cosine of 5 is equal to 19. Is the variable by itself. So we need to divide both sides by cosine of 45. And we do this here, these will cancel out. In the calculator, we can do 19 over cosine of 45, which is square root of 2. We found x. Because we talked about the biggest angles opposite the biggest side, yes? What are the two angles we have in this? 45, 45, yes? So the sides opposite them should be the... Because why? Because we could say sine. So we did sine of this angle here. It would have been y over 19 square root of 2. At this point here, we would multiply both sides by 19 square root of 2. So 19 second square root 2 times sine of 45 degrees is 19. So y is indeed 19. That the sides opposite 45 are going to be the same, and the hypotenuse is going to be whatever that value is times the square root of 2. In a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse is the square root of 2 times as long as each leg. And it works out that way every single time. So, what would the value of y be? And the value of x is? So y is 9, x is 9 square root of. Yeah, no, I switched them up. I threw more problems in, so just A and B. So here, since the hypotenuse is 9 square root of 2, because what were we saying? Whatever the leg's length is, times the square root of 2 is the the hypotenuse, yes? So what do we have? 9 times the square root of 2. So the leg has to be 9, yes? We're just dividing it by the square root of 2. So guys, it's still. So here y is 11 and x is 11 because we had the leg's length times the square root of 2. So if we want to see what the leg's length is, we're just dividing it by the square root of 2. Those two cancel, and it means the two sides are both 11. So if we want to find the leg, we're just taking the hypotenuse length and dividing it by the square root of 2. So here the hypotenuse is. So we divide it by. These will. So V is 12 and U is. Questions on this?
Usually we get to it a lot faster.
No, he added more questions.
So what did we just do, or what have we been doing? The leg is equal to what? The hypotenuse divided by square root of 2, yes? So here, so this one here, we can't just cross out square root of 2 because it doesn't have it. So 12 over square root of 2 is. So the two sides are 6 square root of 2. Because what did we say? That for a 45, 45, 90, guys, let's focus in. The legs are the same, and the hypotenuse is whatever that length is times the square root of 2. So here, the leg's length, the length of both of the legs is 6 square root of 2. If we wanted to find the hypotenuse, we would multiply it by the square root of 2. Well, the square root of 2 times square root of 2 is the square root of 4. Well, what is the square root of 4? And 6 times 2 is what he gave us, yes? So if there's not a square root in the hypotenuse, it has to be in the legs. And that's it. So what would we do for this one here? Because we know that this 10 over square root of 2 is 5 square root of 2. So V is questions on this here? So this time we have the hypotenuse is 11, yes? Because we know the hypotenuse is whatever the leg's length is times the square root of 2. Or we can say the legs is the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So again, in the calculator, we'll do 11 over the square root of 2 and get 11 square root of 2 over 2. What is the only difference between this hypotenuse and the two before? What did the two before have in common? They're both even numbers. So this one's odd, so the 11 over 2 won't reduce because the last one was 10. 10 over 2 is 5. So that's it. Questions on this here? 3 square root of 5 is our hypotenuse, yes? So what have we been saying? The hypotenuse is the leg's length times square root of 2. So here, we're going to take the hypotenuse and do what? Divide it by? Doesn't matter what the number is, it still follows the same pattern. So we can say 3 square root of 5 over square root of 2 and get 3 square root of 10 over 2. Any questions on this here? Questions on this here? Let's look at the next one. So here, all the last ones we've done for a while have all given us the hypotenuse. This gave us one of the two legs, yes? So the other leg, y, must be what? Yes. And the hypotenuse is what? Square root of 2 times. Because in a 45-45-90, the legs, the sides opposite the 45 are the same, and the hypotenuse is whatever that length is times the square root of 2. That's it. So the sides opposite the 45 degrees are the same. So these are going to be both going to be 5 square root of 2, and the hypotenuse is whatever the length of the leg is times square root of 2. So 5 square root of 2 times square root of 2. We can say 5 second square root of 2 times square root of 2 is yeah. If we're given the legs, they're going to be the same, and the hypotenuse is multiplied by the square root of 2. So are we given one of the legs or the hypotenuse? So we know x and y are going to be the legs, and if they're the legs, it means they are the same. X and y will have the same value, yes? Now the hypotenuse is whatever the length of the legs is times the square root of 2. So to get back to the length of the legs, the other two sides, we have to divide it by so we have 5 square root of 3 over so fraction, in the top we have a fraction. Square root of 3 over 3 over questions on this here? Any questions over any of this here? Are you ready for the next one? We're told that this side is 9 square root of 2 over 2. What is V? because the sides opposite the 45 degrees are the same. And the hypotenuse is whatever that length is, what? Almost. If we're going to the hypotenuse, we multiply by the square root of 2. If we're going from the hypotenuse to the leg, we divide.
U is equal to 1. So we could just write all of that.
Yeah. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. 9 times 2 is 18. And 18 divided by 2 is 9. Questions on this here?